This week on Theatre Talk.
Once you uncover people, they reveal their childish side very quickly.
Theatre Talk is made possible in part by the CUNY TV Foundation.
Right, now, quiet as a mouse, understand? You finish that homework first, alright? Before you do anything else, you write your essay you should have done last night. Remember what Mrs. Crackle told you to do, don't you? It's write about my wonderful day. So you write that at the top of the page first. My wonderful day. I know. My wonderful day by Winnie Barnstairs.
From New York City, this is Theatre Talk. I'm the show's producer, Susan Haskins.
And I'm Michael Riedel of the New York Post.
My Wonderful Day is a funny and very touching play. It's just opened, and it happens to be written by one of Britain's most eminent playwrights, who's here with us today.
Alan Ayckbourn has written some of the great plays seen in the West End and on Broadway. They include Absurd Person Singular, Woman in Mind, A Small Family Business, a particular favorite of mine, and a terrific revival last season of The Norman Conquest, which won the Tony Award for Best Revival. The new play, his 73rd play, is My Wonderful Day at 59 East 59th Street. Alan Ayckbourn, welcome to Theatre Talk.
Thank you very much, Michael.
73 plays. I mean, do you write every minute of the day?
Well, no, I write one or two a year, and fortunately my writing style, even these days when I'm clocking on a little bit in years, it is fast.
Really?
So my thinking time is slow. I plan for months, and then I write in a matter of 2 weeks probably.
Really? That's at real speed then?
Real speed, yeah. I mean, day and night often.
Really? Now, this play, just to give the audience a sense of it, it's a lovely play about a 12-year-old girl, I think she is.
9-year-old.
I'm sorry, a 9-year-old girl who, her mother is working as a housekeeper in a upper middle class household. Yeah. And the mother, for various reasons, has to leave her there, and this girl observes all of the farcical day of these people. How does that play come into your mind?
I was fascinated, partly from my own childhood, when I was a product of a single-parent family, and my mother was the breadwinner, and she professionally used to go around as a journalist firstly, and then as a women's short story writer for women's magazines. And she used to bring me in tow in the school holidays, and I'd sit there on the desk and just watch these adults talking about things they thought I wasn't aware of. I mean, I was 5 or 6 then, and but little children are recording machines, as anyone who's got kids will know, and they can repeat an awful lot and understand an awful lot more than you think. And recently, I now have a grandson who is known as Little Alan. His name is Lucas, and he's 6 years old, and he does exactly the same. I can see him sitting in a corner while we're talking about things that we think are not really suitable for him, and his eyes are just sliding, and I think, that kid is recording.
You think, there's another writer in the family.
There's a blinking red light in the middle of his forehead, and he's going to be bringing that back in 20 years. Yeah. And we'll all go, well, we'll all be gone by then, thank heavens, because my life will be seen on stage by another little dramatist.
But that's the key, though, isn't it, I guess, to being a writer? I mean, maybe those are the roots for you, just being in the corner and watching and observing all the time.
Yes, there are listening children. I mean, I said to the actress playing Aisha, I said, I've got to make this rather an unusual child. I mean, a normal child would have an iPod plugged in his ears and be texting furiously and wouldn't even notice his surroundings. But there are listening children, and my grandson, thank God, is of the listening type. And so there's hope for the listening children of the future.
Yes, you set it up that she doesn't watch any television because she's above it.
She finds it a bit boring, quite honestly. But then her mother can't afford her to take her to the cinema either. So she likes to write.
You said that child was you. But are you that adulterous, crazy man as well in the play?
Parts of me in all of the characters.
I mean, in your past, of course.
Yes, of course. Nothing current.
Nothing current.
I'm also that ditzy little red-headed bimbo girl.
Having an
and
affair,
somewhere part of me is all of them.
And they're all touched by divorce, and they're all kind of messed up by it. And then you watch this child who's thinking better of it, you hope.
Well, there are also people who are not easy with children.
Yes.
Partly because one of them wants to be one of them loathes them, one of them can't have them because their husband won't let her, and one of them has just ruined a perfectly good marriage and walked out on his own daughter. In a sense, what we see is the child with adults coming at it with an expectation of what they think children will like. And we do treat children extraordinarily badly quite often, certainly in England. You know, one either speaks down to them in baby language, which is like they were tame cat or something.
Yes.
Or else we try and we talk up above them. You know, I mean, it's very hard to pitch to a child, and these adults have terrible trouble. And as the play progresses, they sort of revert to childhood themselves, really.
Did your mummy give you a choice of names as well?
Oh, she's just the two. She's got Winona Marguerite.
Oh, a Marguerite. Wow. But that's a great one, Marguerite.
The secretary girl becomes a baby, trying to be daddy's little girl. The man becomes a petulant, selfish man who wants his own way.
And the child seems the most wise and mature.
Yes, she gradually gets older. And I said to, and the mother is a dreamer. Her mother is one of those women who you know, you want to say to her, come down to earth, Mum. And I said to her, the actress playing Winnie, in a few years this girl is going to be looking after her mother. And she's going to say, Mum, don't do that.
Yes, the mother's cleaning a mansion, and she says to her daughter, someday we'll have a house like this. And her daughter looks at her like, you're kidding.
It's interesting something you say about this play, and it got me thinking about that wonderful production last season of The Norman Conquest that Matthew Warchus did. When you say the characters in My Wonderful Day, the adults become children, in a lot of your plays, as things begin to go wrong in the lives of the adults, they behave like children. I mean, I think of the cast of The Norman Conquest. At some point, you know, midway through each play, they start behaving like spoiled little bratty 5-year-olds.
Well, Norman is the archetypal child, and Reg with his game that no one will play with him. He's stamping his foot and really losing his temper.
Now the police can spot the criminals as follows. They have 3 police cars, which are these. Now police cars can run on the roads, but not in the buildings.
That's a relief.
Is this something that comes not only from your observations of life, but you've spent your entire life in theater? Your observations of the way theatrical people behave, I wonder?
Well, no. I think we're very grown up in theater. No. I think once you uncover people, they reveal their childish side very quickly, and some of the most dignified and adult people I know, once you catch them off guard, you could, I can see you exactly how you were when you were a 7-year-old little boy. You know?
Only now you're worse, right?
No. Only now you're pretending to be an adult.
I'm struck in this play, as in The Norman Conquest, how beautifully you use silence in your plays. In the American theater, people seem to have to talk straight through and be loud, but you allow your characters to really get quiet and use and shape. You use and shape silence. Is this something you're consciously doing?
Yes, very much. I mean, one always starts off as a writer overwriting. Any dramatist will say that. And the reason is, of course, you underestimate the power of an actor, the scope of an actor's. Now, acting on stage is predominantly an actor's medium. I mean, they are allowed to guide their own performances in a way that they can't in film or television. They're edited and cut, and the shots are selected and for them. But on stage, when you step back, you allow the actor the time to develop and, in a sense, of freedom to interact with an audience. And I've been trying to exploit the actor's art, and there's an awful lot of, as you say, silence in the play, which allows the actor to elaborate and to say, I think the audience will just have a little bit more of the silence now, and this audience is impatient and they're coughing, so I can just speed it up a little bit. But as I always say when I do playwriting lectures, don't forget, dear writers, that half of theatre is visual. And what goes on between the words is just as interesting often. And I learned this from the late, great Harold Pinter, who was the master of the silence.
Absolutely, yes.
You know, and when I used to be an actor, and I played a couple of Pinter plays, and suddenly one stopped talking, and the audience stopped with you and was saying, what happened? And there's scenes he's written and I've written now where somebody not replying is interesting. When somebody comes in with a dialogue sentence and says, don't you agree? And then you can see them getting lost because they get no response, yes or no. And the thing about Wonderful Day is that there are one or two quite long speeches in it. But I always said to the actors, no one ever sets out to make a long speech. They just say something, and then because the child doesn't reply, they then say something else. And there's a speech about the girl going to boarding school, and she starts to talk about her own childhood, and just in an attempt to amuse the child. But before you know it, we're delving into her subconscious and the family that sent her away to boarding school, and the fact that her parents didn't love her, and now she stopped loving them, and you think, oh dear, where are we going?
She's got a lot on her mind.
Yes, there's a lot of silence here. This child just neither denying or accepting it, just listening.
Yeah. You have a wonderful cast that came from the theater that you work in Scarborough,
yes.
Correct? The British cast
yes.
came here.
Oh, yeah.
You had a British cast that came from the Old Vic last season with the Norman Conquests. Your plays are very specific about the British upper middle class, I would say. Do you find it is more difficult for American actors to get the tone and the style of an Ayckbourn play than it is, of course, for British actors?
Yes, I think it is true. We've got a common language, which is probably the thing that, as somebody said, divides us. But then we're not very convincing at Tennessee Williams either, but often. But it's the rhythms and the nuance which one builds into the fabric of the dialogue, which I have worked with American actors occasionally. I worked a few years ago with an American cast, and I spent an awful lot of time explaining that though she's saying this, she doesn't mean that. She means something else. And they're going, oh my God, I never realized. Well, I was fortunately there to explain, but a British actor would immediately pick that up and say, oh yeah, I see.
Well, I was thinking about that because Neil Simon just had a revival of Brighton Beach Memoirs, which sadly didn't last, but it was quite good. And I was just thinking of the very specific world that he writes about, that immigrant Jewish world of the 1930s. And I wondered, can a Neil Simon play come off all that well with British actors? Is there certain writers who the actors from your culture have to play your parts?
Well, we have a go at Neil Simon, and I've directed a couple of them.
And have you felt that you've captured the world?
I was longing for a few bona fide American actors. I thought, I give my right arm for Walter Matthau.
Jack Lemmon at this
point. Jack Lemmon, yes, please.
When they originally did the Norman Conquest, you had an American cast, and by all reports, it was not as really as successful.
We had the original London director Eric Thompson, but we had Paula Prentice and Richard Benjamin and a very good cast. Yeah. I mean, but nonetheless, really having trouble with the English. The thing about Matthew's production is it was so thrown away. I mean, he said to me, and I congratulated him on the production when I saw it in London. When I first saw it, my heart was in my mouth, just in case it wasn't going to work. Yeah. And I said, that was wonderful. And I said, thank you for taking the play seriously. And he said, well, I had a first day rehearsal, and I said, my belief is that I want to play this as Chekhov, and if you can all come in as Chekhovian characters. And I said, well, that's a great compliment to the play, and thank you. But they all approached it with a tremendous seriousness. And the more serious they got, the funnier it became. And but of course, it was a white knuckle ride for the actors, because they were going, "Oh, are you still being funny?"
Yeah. And where are the laughs?
Matthew was saying, "Yes, yes, believe me, trust me." And of course, waves of laughter at the Vic and over here.
Yeah.
I mean, but belief of the truth of the people and the dilemma, the fact that it really matters to Sarah to lay that damn table properly, get the seating arrangement. And it was a passionate life or death Greek tragedy for her.
Where am I sitting? You're here, Tom. Sit here.
Well, Annie, you should be sitting here. You're the hostess.
Right. No, she can't sit there. She's out of order.
She's the hostess. She should sit at the head.
But then we've got two women sitting together. I'll move back down here, then that's easier. No, Ruth, no, stay where you are.
No, don't go here next to Annie, then it's right.
No, it's not. You're next to me.
Then we've got two men sitting together. Why don't you leave it to me?
No, it's all right. Don't get excited. Now, Tom, you move round one, go to the end there.
I don't.
Would it be easier if I ate in the kitchen?
Well, in this play, My Wonderful Day, the woman of the house is obsessed with her sofa, an expensive sofa.
Yes.
And when something goes wrong on the sofa, which we won't say, it's as if her entire world has been upended.
Well, she's seriously unhinged as a character. I mean, she has a very, very high
Yes, but for good reason.
Very low melting point.
I'm a monster. Here you were, sitting peacefully, innocently writing your little story, and I march in, jumping to all the wrong conclusions, bellowing and screaming. Forgive me, darling. Please forgive me.
Scream, Madam Play.
I sympathize with her completely.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
I want to ask you, I've read a couple of interviews with you over the years, and the critics and interviewers always say Alan Ayckbourn is a leading writer, national treasure, major figure in theater, but he isn't taken quite as seriously or on the same level of Tom Stoppard and Harold Pinter. How do you respond to that when they say that? Do you feel that you're at their level, or is it because you're so popular and entertaining that you're not considered the intellectual type?
Well, it's a bit of a curse being popular, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
No.
I mean, by being popular, I think it means more people who aren't used to going to theatre come to my plays. That was always my ambition, to bring. I wanted to share the magic of theatre with them, and. Well, my background was, as I say, in this tiny regional company, and really, when I started, the then director, Stephen Joseph, said to me, yes, you can write a play for us, but there's two things. Make it worth the actor's while to play it, because they're not being paid very much, but make it, at least try and make box office. So I walked that dangerous tightrope of a play that was sort of worth writing, but was still going to bring the punters in and pay our salaries, because we could all go to the wall if the play folded.
Yeah.
So I always had a little commercial demon at the back of me, just to say, I hope people are going to enjoy this. But I, on the other hand, my other side of me wanted to write seriously about human beings, and as I moved on, the plays got more serious, and I really walked that very thin line of comedy. And sometimes I've gone into the very dark areas.
Such as, what plays would you consider yours that go to those?
Well, plays like Henceforward, even plays like Small Family Business, which you mentioned.
One of my favorites. It's a wonderful
It's a very dark ending.
Yes,
I mean, the guy, this family that starts off pursuing the teenage daughter for stealing a tiny bottle of shampoo from the local drugstore. She finishes up a victim of drugs that her father is peddling.
Yes.
And she's dying in the upstairs lavatory. And it's really a very bleak ending.
Yeah.
But I would still describe it as a comedy.
Yes, absolutely. And of course, through the comedy, you then really get at the hypocrisy, if you will, of the way people live their lives publicly and what they're really like underneath that.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, no, it's a play about compromise, really.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I had the conversation. People say, well, I don't believe in stealing, but I believe in stealing food if you're starving. And you say, well, hang on. And then somebody else said, I believe in stealing books because books are everyone's property. And you say, what about the authors? You know? And, you know, okay, I believe in murdering red-headed people, but I'll leave the brunettes alone. And, you know, you just begin to compromise the public morality, and this family just inches from stealing a shampoo to stealing wholesale lives.
I think it's time for a revival of small family business on Broadway, I believe.
difficult play to stage.
Yeah.
Because I was given the Olivier space, which is, as you know, a huge theatre, and I fill that with your characters. What we put on stage was a whole front of a doll's house. You know, if you've seen those doll's houses where the front opens and you see all the little rooms, and that's really fun. But it's quite a big build.
Yeah, it's a bit expensive.
I guess they couldn't have afforded it today.
I just wanted to ask you, you're how old now? You're
70.
70. You had a stroke from which it seems that you've bounced back pretty agilely.
Well, the top bit's working all right.
Yeah. You've been so prolific and written so many wonderful plays. Do you feel any diminishment of the creative powers at all as you get older as a writer, or are they sharper than ever?
Well, I used to run the theatre in Scarborough, and I retired last year, and this is my first year just writing and directing. As I said to someone, they said, do you miss running the theatre? And I said, no, not at all. I now have none of the responsibility and all of the pleasure. So, but when I had the stroke, it was the very first time for the first few weeks after the stroke when I had no ideas in my head and I felt terribly, terribly lonely and empty. And then I said, okay, pull yourself together. You've got a back catalogue that's pretty big. And you can start reworking that. So I was going to redirect some revivals. And then a tiny little germ of an idea suddenly came to me. And I thought, oh, thank God. I've still got ideas, and I've written 2 or 3 since the stroke. And I'm getting stronger every day. I'm just exercising that writing.
So did you write My Wonderful Day after the stroke?
Oh, yes.
Wonderful.
Which was written very, very, very recently. It's my last play.
We have a minute left, but we should quickly say, and first I want to say, My Wonderful Day, though very, very funny, is very serious, and as I told you, I was weeping at the end of the play, so that's something. You have the actress who's playing the 9-year-old.
My Wonderful Day by Winnie Barnstead.
You told us she was 28.
Yeah, she's amazing.
What's her name?
Aisha Antoine.
Incredible. I mean, I did not know until you told us before we started taping that she was 28 years old. She looks like she's 12 at the most.
Yes. Well, it's an incredible... I mean, when she came in to read for me, she'd hidden her bumps and she was looking every bit a 12-year-old. She'd done her hair in braids and she read with me and I said, oh, it's a clever kid. My casting director said, she's no kid. She's been in this television series and this television, but she's a very serious actress. Great fun, but there's a nice touch that she does, which I didn't pick up at all in rehearsal, and then I suddenly saw her write. You know, she spends a lot of the time writing. Yeah. When I was giving sort of little notes, she was writing them down with her right hand. But when she plays Winnie, she goes left-handed, and it just gives her that awkward writing of a 9-year-old, and that's the sort of detail she does.
She looks more like a child.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Her feet go. I don't. You know, the whole physical.
And you said when you were directing her, you began to speak to her as if.
Well, there were days when I would come forward. You know, I didn't want to frighten her, and I'd say, "That was very, very good," and it was very clever. And she'd go, "Yeah, thanks." I go, and it was quite a shock to see her in the bar afterwards having a cocktail. I'd say, get that kid out of here.
But you had to cast an adult, right, for union reasons. But
well, it's a very big part, as you appreciate,
yes.
And she's on for the entire play.
Yeah.
So having the strain and the concentration would just there are remarkable 12-year-olds and 10-year-olds, but and indeed there is a history of show business children to contradict that. But I wanted a girl of Caribbean extract to play Winnie, and B, trying to find that age. It's very, very hard.
Yeah.
I was sitting there thinking, this kid's so talented, I hope she doesn't go to Hollywood and become a jaded drug addict.
Then she can be in a small family business. Yes. The play is My Wonderful Day. It's part of the Brits Off-Broadway series at 59 East 59th Street. It is the 73rd play from the great writer Alan Ayckbourn, and we hope there are 74, 75, 76, and many more.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being our guest
What a
tonight.
pleasure.
There's a streak of violence in it which is unnatural. I mean, in a woman, it's not natural, is it? I mean, a woman's natural nature is not a violent one, is it?
I've known violent women. Very violent ones.
No, but they were unnatural, that's my point. I mean, with men, violence is a natural ingredient, it's germane in their nature, but women... I mean, take the phrase feminine qualities, what are they? Gentle, quiet-spoken, submissive, agreeable, soft, don't argue with you.
Yeah. Don't think I've met many of those.
Our thanks to the Friends of Theatre Talk for their significant contribution to this production. Theatre Talk is made possible in part by the Frederick Lowe Foundation, the Eleanor Naylor Dana Charitable Trust, the Alan S. Gordon Foundation, the Corey and Bob Donnelly Charitable Fund, Carrie J. Fries, the Dorothy Strelson Foundation, the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs, and the New York State Council on the Arts, a state agency.
We welcome your questions or comments for Theatre Talk. Thank you and good night.